Are you ready for the Low Blows Network? Hi guys, Rick here. Before we get to this episode of Paddy's New Yacht, I'd like to talk briefly about gambling because it'll be discussed a lot on this show. Gambling is supposed to be fun and accoutrement to your sporting weekend. However, it can also be debilitating and ruin lives. If you find that your gambling gets in the way of work, school or other activities, causes mental or physical health issues, causes any issues in your life, gives you financial stress of any kind or damages your reputation, then gambling may be a danger to you. If you spot any of these signs in yourself, stop gambling immediately, consult problemgambling.ie for all resources that can assist you, and help yourself before it's too late. And now, on to Paddy's New Yacht.
Former pro wrestler Rick Nash and former Paddy Power insider David Kent are not good gamblers. They're sports fanatics who are determined to crack the code and make it rich on sports gambling or die trying.
This time next year, we'll be millionaires.
Follow them on their journey to eventual bankruptcy every Friday on the Low Blows Network with sports tips that made so much sense at the time in Paddy's New Yacht.
The mind games have begun ahead of Ireland's Six Nations clash with England on Saturday, with the English defence coach John Mitchell saying Ireland will attempt to bore the shit out of us. But as we get kicked off here on another week of Paddy's New Yacht, David Kent of the Daily Star and Buzz.ie, what are the best examples of ineffective mind games in sport?
Anyone who ever tried to take on Sir Alex Ferguson in interviews, in conversations, but the most famous example, like we talked about before, is Kevin Keegan going nuts when Newcastle were up there challenging them in the mid-90s, and Fergie just played it so cool. They were just like, yeah, look, we'll get over our own game, whereas he had Kevin Keegan going, I would love it, and really get hyped up in a post-match interview, and I'd love if we went to Middlesbrough, or they still have to go to Middlesbrough, and I'd love if we beat them, and you're like, oh, you've just literally he's got you wrapped around his finger. You could argue probably that of Sir Alex Ferguson's long spell in United games, I'd say maybe 10% of his games were won off the pitch before or afterwards, because he just managed. He had this little quality where he would always, he'd praise an opponent, but then he'd leave it open enough that someone could read through it as oh, he's actually slagging the shit out of us there. But it's just wound so many managers up. No one was able to do it better than him. And no one's, even still, no one's not able to do it in any sport.
There's, when you're talking about trash talk and mind games and stuff, you got to think of, say, the likes of boxing and MMA. And Conor McGregor often comes to mind then when you think of them. But, you look at his last two fights in both boxing and MMA, and you look at, and it's kind of a tale of when a fighter gets successful versus when a fighter is coming up. You know, when they're coming up, they're hungry, they want to win, they're doing this, they're not known yet, so it's a surprise, it's a novelty to have them be so charismatic. But then when they get successful, it's kind of like wheeling them out and having them do their shtick, which is very much what the past two fights were for him, against Floyd Mayweather and against Khabib Nurmagomedov, of course. Where we were going in with the inclination that, look, McGregor's going to lose these. We all know the jig here. We've played along for long enough that, could he be one of the best in the world? He's definitely, one of the best, but he's not the best. He's never been the GOAT. He's never been in the GOAT conversation. He had limitations, and we knew about that ever since we saw him lose to Nick Diaz. So we were like, right, this guy is gettable, and he's going up against two proper elite fighters. So every bit of enthusiasm, every bit of trash talk looked kind of desperate, looked kind of hokey, it looked fake, it looked staged, and at the end of the day, it did nothing, because then it comes down to the octagon. It comes down, at the end of the day, your trash talk is just that. If you're not the better man, you're not going to win, or better team in team sports. And then McGregor as well, there was a racial element to both of those, which was really unfortunate and really annoying and really off-putting. That was kind of one of the many things which turned me against McGregor when he started going after Khabib's culture and making it very dirty, which of course led to the brawl that we will discuss on today's shows. But also, again, like if we're talking about McGregor, if you're talking about ineffective mind games, possibly the most famous one involving McGregor was against him and level at him when Jeremy Stephens, God love him, tried to have a crack and claimed that McGregor was ducking him the entire time. And of course, McGregor fired back with the immortal line, "Who the fuck is that guy?" And I don't know about you, Kento, but I haven't heard of Jeremy Stephens since. That was it. That was it for him.
That's a defining moment in his career, and it's for all the wrong reasons.
And like, it's so like, because if you're Jeremy Stephens, you're like, I'm gonna have a crack at Conor. I'm gonna do it. He's there. I'm here. Why not? I've got a chance to make a name for myself. You totally see his logic, but it's just the response killed him, and that was it. And then we all said, "Yeah, who the fuck is he?" And that was that. So in terms of like, at least McGregor still has a career. He's still a household name. When he comes back, whatever fight he's in, where he'll make millions off, no doubt. Jeremy Stephens has to perhaps nick it at the death. In terms of, we actually acknowledged that we didn't know who he was, we didn't care who he was, and we never heard from him again. But I wish him well in his future. Guys, it's one of our biggest shows of the year today. Six Nations kicks off at the weekend. We spoke about Ireland, England. Dave's going to be talking. We gave our big preview last week. If you missed it, if you're only in the mood for it now, check that out. We had Neil Keegan of the Couch Pundit podcast on. Always excellent, always entertaining. So check that out if you haven't already. It's on Spotify and iTunes and Patreon and all up there for free. But this week, we will be going over the games in particular. Dave's going to be talking you through now with a week's more knowledge and prep into us. But that's not the big game of this week, because we have been preparing for this all season. Every week I've been taking you through my NFL acca. For those of you newer listeners, the freeloaders who are just coming in since we joined Spotify, I've been betting on the NFL every week. So if you don't know, basically the way we work it is, personally, I put a fiver on every sports weekend while the Premier League is running, which adds up to about 190 quid, €5 by 38. And then basically that's how I judge my season. If I win over 200 quid, allowing for the odd extra bet in there, like we will do with the Super Bowl, I will consider the season won. I had the season wrapped up by October with my NFL bets. So it's been going well. It's been a good season. It hasn't been a good playoffs. Like pretty much everything I've been betting against in the playoffs hasn't worked out, but that's a good thing because it's meant it's been unpredictable. So, and I've already won the season, so I don't mind if I lose now. I'm just doing it for the fun. But we're going to be talking you through this Sunday's Super Bowl between the New England Patriots and the LA Rams. So I'm going to be giving an in-depth preview. I'm going to be giving my bets for the weekend. I'm going to be giving you a prediction. I'm going to be talking you through, even if you're a newer NFL fan who just wants to get involved for the Super Bowl and know something to talk about if you're going out to Buskers and the Ball are running tonight. You know, Woolshed always do. I was in McGowan's last year. I might be going to Roddy's this year. So wherever you're going, if you're out with your mates, we'll give you a blagger's guide where you can sound like you know what you're talking about, even if you don't. So stay tuned for that. We're also going to be previewing the Premier League and giving our picks, and we're also going to be quizzing David Kent. He's 1 point behind in the Kent on Kent quiz. He can level it up with a win here. But first, we're going to get kicked off with the news from the week. It's been a busy week in sports, so what we do, because we've only have around an hour to talk about all of the world of sports that we want to talk about, what we do with the news is we wrap it all into one package. We put a minute on the clock, in theory, and we give our hot takes from the 5 big stories of the week. We call it the 5 in 5. And ladies and gentlemen, it's about to get underway right now, because Man United always get the easy draws, is what they used to say. Well, now they've drawn Chelsea after having to go through Arsenal in the FA Cup 4th round last week. With big guns dropping like flies, though, after Spurs went out against Palace last week, will the winner of that tie have to be considered favourite for the Cup?
I mean, yes and no, because any competition that Manchester City are still in the latter stages, they have to be considered favourites, but they've got other major problems with the league, which we'll get into later on, whereas Chelsea and Man United, yeah, there's a battle for a top 4, but the FA Cup would still represent a successful season for them. So, probably, like, yes and no. City are still favourites until they get knocked out, but after that, like, it's a close level to Chelsea United.
I think this is an early FA Cup final, and I'm not just saying that because Man United.
Wow.
I think this is the FA Cup final because, we do like the Giant Killers, and it looks like it's going to be one of those seasons. Like, again, on field, there's some upsets, but there's not a lot of inspiration off the FA Cup this year. We said it last week. But, when you look at the draw now, you're like, oh, holy shit, like, fucking Doncaster are going to do this. So at the same time, you always have one big team, and, in years like this, you'll have one big team playing a small team, like United, or except for the year we had, I think, Cardiff and Portsmouth in the FA Cup final. But at the same time, you have this is going to be to decide the big team. City are way too distracted. They are dodgy as fuck in Europe this year. They have enough to be worried about with the Premier League. They will not be putting out full strength teams, especially when the fixture congestion starts to kick in. I can see City getting taken out. Though, if United win this now and there, look, they're going to draw City in the next game. So maybe that will say that's the real FA Cup final. But I think this is to decide who wins the cup, personally, for me. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier, but the UFC 229 fight finally got closure this week as Khabib Nurmagomedov and was handed a 9-month suspension, fined $500,000, while Conor McGregor was hit with a 6-month suspension, fined $50,000. Khabib was angry at the air quote politics, but were these sanctions fair?
Look, something had to be done, and keep in mind as well, they were fined by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, which means they can't fight in Las Vegas. They can still fight in Madison Square Garden and whatnot. Something had to be done, but at the same time, we watch MMA and UFC, and especially Conor McGregor fights for the circus. So we don't want to see these guys out for 2 years or anything like that. We want to see them fight, but something did need to be done because fighters need to be discouraged from going out and obviously attacking their opponent's team after the bell. So something needed to be done. This is fair. It's backdated to October, which means that Khabib can fight as soon as I think it's June, July. Yeah. So which would be when he'd be fighting anyway. Conor can fight in April, so that's fair. I don't want to see them not be allowed fight. I do want to see more from them. I would like to see a rematch down the line, eventually. But I'm happy with this.
Yeah, I think the bans themselves were fair. The fines, I could see Khabib's point, but interestingly, Dylan Dennis's case, which is who Khabib claims provoked him, and that's the reason he jumped into the crowd. He hasn't been settled yet. He hasn't been judged yet by the State Commission, so that'll be an interesting one to see what happens there. But in terms of the bans, I think you're right. It is fair enough.
If you're assaulting people, then he started it and he provoked me, doesn't. You know what I mean? Especially if you're a professional fighter. Especially if you've won your fight as well. Like, you won. Learn to win. So I don't accept any of those excuses from Khabib. They're just that. Anyway, moving on. Thierry Henry's return to his boyhood club Monaco ended in disaster after he was sacked following just 20 games in charge. Was this premature, though, on Monaco's part?
I'd say probably, yeah, because Henry had no experience in coaching other than the Belgium assistant to Roberto Martinez, which I don't think anyone knows how that works. And a bit of punditry on Sky. It just smacked of, listen, there's too much of a fairy tale in romance. Not quite Gary Neville off Valencia kind of thing, but, he's done well with Sky. He's doing well on television. He's doing well with Belgium. And, he's been trying. I'd have a serious worry that Robbie Keane will have a similar enough thing with Ireland when he takes over, or when he is on McCarthy's coach staff, because he hasn't had any experience. But this was a disaster, and I don't know if Henry wants to get into management again as a full-time top coach, but I'm sure he'll be happy enough to go back to Sky and take the payback from the punditry.
This had to be done. There's no way about it. Monaco are in serious danger of relegation, so it was a practical case as well as everything else, and it was going disastrously for Henry. About the only good thing that happened was he managed to team up with Cesc Fabregas for a matter of days before getting sacked. That was kind of fun. But this was a disaster. He was caught on camera calling one of the opposition's player a son of a whore. He admonished one of his players in a press conference for not pulling in his chair after he was finished talking, actually treated him like a child. This did not suit him. It was not a good fit. It was not the right managerial job at the right time. You see, you look at the likes of former players like Frank Lampard did well going to the likes of Derby. Steven Gerrard, also give him credit where he's due, did well going to Rangers. Go to teams that have something to offer you for in a place where you're built to win. If we look at the likes of Gary Neville going to Valencia or Thierry Henry going to Monaco, it's teams who are in desperate need of a strong, experienced hand, and it was always going to go this way. So Monaco are actually, I think, smart and proactive by just cutting it now and having a chance to save their season and save their skin in Ligue 1, because if they go down, that's absolutely disastrous considering the success they've had in recent years. I think it had to be done.
Yeah, moving on to tennis, and Novak Djokovic blasted past Rafa Nadal to win his record 7th Australian Open crown and move to a total of 15 Grand Slam titles. But will he be able to catch Roger Federer at 20?
I think he'll be able to get 20. Whether he'll be able to catch Federer is another story, because Federer is not done. Federer could win. I'd say Federer, you're looking at maybe 1-2 Grand Slams by the end of his career. I'd say, and Djokovic is 31. And Federer, keep in mind, is 37. But at the same time, like 37 is, like he's a miracle in like being able to compete at a high level for 37. But Djokovic, at the same time, like we looked at the era of Djokovic, Murray, Nadal and Federer, and we're like, oh man, what's the next era going to be like? Well, they haven't come along. Djokovic is still miles ahead of the pack. He absolutely destroyed Nadal. Went against their pick last week, destroyed him in the Aussie Open final. I watched it. It was phenomenal. 2 hours he won a best of 5 game, which is absolutely insane. I think they have previous finals that have gone on for 5-6 hours. So it was insane. I think he's easily going to get to 20. I think he probably will pass out Federer, but that doesn't discount Federer as the GOAT. Like, even when the statistics go against it, what Federer has done and the impact he's had on tennis will still make him the GOAT. But I think Djokovic, time is on his side. There's no one stepping up to be the alpha dog against him, though that can change. Look at Naomi Osaka coming out of nowhere to be the alpha dog in women's tennis. So it can change very quickly, but at the same time, right now I have to say yes, I think he is going to pass 20, and I think he will eventually pass Federer.
Yeah, I love that argument that Federer still has a couple in him even at the age of 37, which just kind of sums up his legacy in tennis and the fact that like he's 37, he really shouldn't be playing at this top level anymore, and he's still winning Grand Slams in the last years. I think, Novak will get to 20. I don't know what Federer will finish on, but it'll be there or thereabouts. So probably.
I think like the problem is as well though, like with Federer still being able to compete at this high level. And look, I know we went down in the 4th round last week, so there's that. But like there hasn't been that jump in competition. There hasn't been anyone else stepping up to the mark. So that actually plays into Djokovic's favour. If Federer can still win Grand Slams at 37, then Djokovic can definitely dominate when he's 31. And what about now? Murray's going to be gone. Nadal's going to be gone shortly. Federer's going to be gone shortly. So it's an open goal for Djokovic unless anyone steps up. We shall see. Anyway, last but not least, let's talk about GAA. And the opening day of the Allianz League provided a huge headline as Monaghan shocked the strong Dublin side, winning by 3 points. Does that show that the Dubs are vulnerable now?
Yes, because it was obviously the second defeat in a row in a match against Monaghan. Obviously last year was kind of a dead rubber at the end of the league, whereas this was to open the day. And the way the Monaghan absolutely cut through the Dublin half back line, this irreplaceable Dublin half back line that they've had for the last couple of years. You actually could argue maybe it was a second strength team, but you might not be worried about that in the forwards, but in your defence, and particularly in goals as well. Stephen Cluxton is 39 this year. He is not going to be around, I would imagine, for 2020. So you need to start getting this strong goalkeeper, strong defence, and the Dubs are completely sliced open. We'll get onto it later, but this weekend could be even worse.
Okay, interesting. Look, I'm game. I'm up for this. I have gone on the record before to say that I find the Dubs dominance boring. You know what I mean? I want to like Gaelic football. I want to watch it every week. I want to be into the Allianz League as well. Look, Dublin winning has got me interested, or Dublin losing has got me interested now. I know I'm saying this all while having a Dublin accent, and that will drive some people insane. Well, I'm sorry. I love sports first and foremost. I don't feel any massive particular pull towards the Dubs. That's just the way I feel. You can deal with it, guys. Anyway, look, that's the sports stories from the week. Now to get on to what we'll be talking about all of next week, maybe all of the next year, because it's Super Bowl time. Football, it's here, guys. It's the Super Bowl. It's what we've been building towards all season. Maybe not the match we've been anticipating, because we lost the 1 seeds in the divisional round last time, which we spoke about last week on Paddy's new yacht. A bit underwhelming, but I have to say, I did promise that I'd get excited about it, and I have got excited about it. I cannot wait. This Sunday, it's the New England Patriots against the LA Rams. It's going to be fantastic, and it's a fascinating matchup, which we're going to break down in all facets shortly. Look, for anyone that's joining in that's not a big American football fan, and you're like, what do I need to know? I want to watch it. Look, I do want to get involved. I do want to know what everyone's going to be talking about. What do I need to know? American football seems complicated. And look, when you get into the nitty gritty of the rules, like if you want to break down what qualifies as offensive and defensive pass interference and whatnot, it can get complicated. And you want to break down the scoring rules, the catch rule, as well as a bleeding nightmare. But look, I don't fully understand that. And I'm winning money left, right, and centre, and about to break down the Super Bowl in depth. You can learn this on the go. But all you need to know for the start is it's offense and defense are on the field. You have two separate teams. You have your offense, you have your defense. One offense plays one defense at a time. The offense has 4 attempts to throw the ball 10 yards for a first down. All the defense has to do is stop them getting to those 10 yards or getting a touchdown by throwing it into the end zone, which is the big colourful bit at the end of the pitch. I'm sure you guys knew that. But at the same time, all the defense has to do is stop them from getting 10 yards and get the ball back, or they have to get an interception and they get the ball back that way. If you throw it into the end zone for a touchdown, you get 6 points, which you can round up to 7 with an extra point kick, which is pretty much a gimme most of the time, though it doesn't always happen, and we'll discuss that in our Super Bowl preview. Or you can go for 2 with one shot from a short length away at a second touchdown. Or on their 4th attempt, if you haven't scored, you can either try punt it to give it back to the other team. You can go for it on 4th. If it's like 4th and 1, which means 4th down and 1 yard, you can go for it on 4th down and try convert it, but then the team gets the ball back from where you failed if you're not successful. Or you can go for a field goal, which is like a conversion in rugby. Basically 3 points if you get it from where you stand. It's that simple, guys. 7 points, 3 points. There's safeties and other stuff. It does get complicated, but you can follow it as you go along. That's all you need to know to watch it, and if you know that much, you can enjoy Sunday. The casual fans on Sunday, they can look forward to Maroon 5 at half-time as they play the slot Rihanna turned down. Perhaps a lot of controversy around that, if you're wondering, and you're seeing bits. Rihanna turned it down basically due to Colin Kaepernick, a former NFL quarterback, who, again, you've probably heard of, even if you don't follow NFL. Colin Kaepernick used to kneel during the United States national anthem in protest at the killings that were going on based by police in America. He was then released from his team. He hasn't been picked up despite being a perfectly good quarterback, and it seems like he's been blacklisted, which has prompted a lot of celebrities to protest, including Rihanna turning down the halftime show, which is a big deal in America. It gets the Super Bowl gets over 100 million viewers, like probably 2 worldwide. So that's a big deal. You can look out for that. It's going to be kind of awkward because Maroon 5 were kind of the highest profile act that they could find without having Rihanna. You can also keep an eye out for Tony Romo on commentary, the former Dallas Cowboys quarterback. Is that good? He's what you want a sports commentator to be. He loves the game. When he's commentating, he feels like he's still playing the game. He played until quite recently, so newer fans would know Tony Romo from his playing days. But he loves the game, and here's the thing: he's reading it like he's playing the game like a quarterback. So if you're a quarterback, basically you have to make the last call on what happens in the game. You have to look at everything. You have to look at where the opposition defense is lining up, how your offense is lining up, who you can throw the ball to if you have to pass it off for a run. You have to make the final call, so you have to be able to scan the field. Tony Romo is still able to do that, and he is basically like Nostradamus in the commentary box. He pretty much just tells you what the quarterback is thinking and what's about to happen. So it's fantastic if you're watching at home. I'm thinking, for the first time in I think around 10 years, I'm thinking about staying in and watching the Super Bowl at home, which I never do. I always go out for it. It's a tradition, even when the Eagles were in it last year. But I'm thinking about staying in and watching it at home because I want to watch and enjoy Tony Romo's commentary, whereas I won't if I'm out in the bar. So that's how good his commentary is, guys, and it's well worth keeping in mind. If you're trying to judge the Super Bowl and predict who wins, I always say it's like a sports movie, except you don't know the ending to it. And it's weird in that it always tends to work out that way, and that the stronger narrative wins. You can have teams that are better than the other team in the playoffs, and they've had a better season and whatnot, but then for no reason whatsoever, the stronger story will end up winning in the end. You look at the last few years, the Eagles finally winning the big one under backup quarterback Nick Foles last year. The Patriots, dramatic comeback against the Falcons from 28-3 down. Malcolm Butler's late interception beating the Seahawks 3 years years ago. Peyton Manning walking away into the sunset in his last Super Bowl game. He'd played terribly all season. One of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. Had played terribly all that season. He had got dropped to the point he played that badly.
Yeah.
But he came back in the playoffs because of an injury, and he won the Super Bowl in his last game when they had no right to win. The Carolina Panthers were way better than the Denver Broncos that season. They nearly went undefeated, but for whatever reason, the bigger story ended up winning out. The Ravens winning it for Ray Lewis in 2012. Eli Manning having Tom Brady's number when Tom Brady looked indestructible. The year the Patriots went 16-0, undefeated in the regular season, absolutely walked through the playoffs and were odds-on favourite against the New York Giants, who were the typical underdogs. Eli Manning destroyed Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, and then they had a rematch a few years later where you're like, right, this is where Tom Brady gets his comeuppance. Similar setup. The Pats were much the better side. Eli Manning just had his number yet again. So what we do when we're trying to predict the Super Bowl here on Paddy's New Yacht is I look at the matchup to inform which of the narratives is going to come out stronger on Sunday. Because here's the thing. We don't know what the story is. The story is going to take place on Sunday. So what we can do is we can look at the two sides' narratives and look at how the teams are playing and where the game will be won on the pitch and see which one we think is going to come out stronger. So that's what we're going to do. The narrative for this is basically the Pats and the Rams played each other in 2002 in the Super Bowl, the first Super Bowl in the Brady and Belichick dynasty. So Brady is the quarterback for the New England Patriots. Bill Belichick is the coach. He is like a scheming, coaching mastermind. He is like Marcelo Bielsa turned up to 11.
That is an excellent reference.
Literally, because the word Spygate that was used for the Bielsa case came from Bill Belichick. He was the first person to be caught spying on teams high profile. He will cheat, he will grind, he will win he will play dirty, he will win any way he needs to win, but winning is what he does. He is a mastermind. 17 years later, they return to the scene of the crime, the Pats and the Rams yet again. Will this cement Brady as the quarterback GOAT with 2 more rings now if he wins this than the former quarterback GOAT Joe Montana? Brady and Belichick are in their 9th Super Bowl. That's more than any other franchise. Those two people have been in more Super Bowls than any other team has been in Super Bowls. That's incredible. Or will the Rams bookend the Pats' reign at the top by being the opponents at the start and the team to end it all at the end of it? It also features possibly the best coach ever in Bill Belichick, as we said, versus the coach every team who doesn't have a coach is looking to replicate in Sean McVay, who's turned the Rams around. They were miserable before he came in under Jeff Fisher. He has turned them around into literally being Super Bowl contenders this Sunday. So we got to look at how they got here. Both were 2 seeds who had to win on the road in overtime as underdogs against the Chiefs and the Saints. The Rams came in surrounded by controversy after the Nickel Roby-Coleman pass interference no call against the Saints. The referees basically, there was a clear pass interference, which is when you basically push or in any way touch the offensive player you're chasing who's having the ball thrown to him before he gets a chance to catch the ball. You can't just hold him back. You have to give him a chance and then you have to intercept the ball fairly. So he blatantly pushed the Saints player. He admitted it afterwards, but the refs for some reason just didn't call it, and it ended up the Saints would be here if that call wasn't made. It was straightforward. Both looked impressive though in seeing off tough opposition. I'd back them to lose against personally in the Chargers and the Cowboys in the divisional rounds. Kento, of these 2 run-ups, they're both very similar. Who would you say has been slightly stronger coming into this?
I'd argue the Pats because they never looked like they were going to lose, I'd argue, against the Chargers or the Chiefs last week, whereas the Rams, as you mentioned, should have lost last week if the referee makes that call. The Saints would have just ran the ball out. Like, essentially there was less than 2 minutes, I want to say, on the clock.
Yeah. With
the pass interference call. So what that would have enabled the Saints to do was run the ball 3 times. The clock wouldn't stop then. The Rams had no timeouts left to stop the ball, and they would have kicked the field goal. Whereas the Patriots, okay, yeah, at times against the Chiefs, but they still, as always been the case, and it's Belichick's model, they just did their job. They got the job done. They've been here before, and they were impressive, more impressive for me than the Rams have been.
That's fair enough, but they are very similar coming into that. A lot of people are focusing this on, and they always do with these Super Bowl matchups. They're focusing on the quarterback battle between Tom Brady and Jared Goff. But let's be real here. Like, that's a no contest. Jared Goff is a good, capable NFL quarterback, especially because he has Todd Gurley, a running back, to back him up and give him options, which opens up the field to allow him to do amazing throws. Tom Brady is the GOAT, though. Tom Brady wins that. Yeah. So it doesn't do much for me. What I am looking for is Brady versus beast pass rusher Aaron Donald. That's the matchup for me, and we'll see it time and again on Sunday. You can't see quarterback versus quarterback because only one can be on the field at the same time. So Brady, when you're looking at this statistics, we'll get into the stats now. Brady is 118.7 passer rating, pressured from the edge, 63.1 interior, which is where Aaron Donald's coming from. So basically, if an offensive line is running, or a defensive line is running at Tom Brady from the outside, Brady can stay in the pocket, which is just like he can just step back into the pocket and be protected by his offensive lineman, and he's good. If you're coming at him from the inside and you can get inside, which Aaron Donald can, Brady is an average quarterback this season. So that's how you get him. Aaron Donald can only be stopped by quickly releasing the ball. That's how you get around him. You get rid of the ball before he gets to you, because he's going to get to you. But the problem is that's something Brady is really good at, with 55% of his passes this season being released with over in under 2.5 seconds with an over 100 QBR. That's a quarterback rating. Whenever he releases under 2.5 seconds, that's insane.
On that, against the Chargers, one of my favorite mic'd up lines of all year. Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram are two of the best at getting to the quarterback. And Joey Bosa at one stage was just getting, like, he went over to Tom Brady and just went, "Stop throwing the ball so fast, Tom," because he was getting to him, but the ball was gone. Joey Bosa and Melvin, two of the top, like, after probably Aaron Donald, two of the top defensive ends. But they got to him, but he just didn't have the ball there, which was and that just sums up Brady. He's insane in that kind of situation.
This is it, exactly, which kind of brings the secondaries into play. But again, like with the Pats and the Rams, you're looking at two kind of league average secondaries. You can throw the ball on them. They are good. They can make plays, but at the same time, it's not necessarily a determinant factor. Two things which could be a determinant factor for Brady when he's trying to do those quick release passes is his reliance on the old staples of Julian Edelman and Rob Gronkowski, aka Gronk. For wrestling fans who aren't really big into the NFL, Gronk is the guy who's Mojo Rawley's mate who showed up at WrestleMania a couple of years ago. Edelman,
remember the security guard?
Yeah, that's
him.
Edelman is fourth in average receiving yards for playoff games. That's how much he leans on him. And he's going up against, in the slot, the person who usually covers the slot for the Rams is our old friend, Nickel Roby Coleman. So that's interesting. The thing is, between the two of them, like, Roby Coleman made the headlines for his no-call and pass interference, which isn't, like, a credit to his defense. That's a no contest for me. Edelman is going to kill him, especially with Brady throwing him the ball. So you have to look at if the Rams are going to switch Aqib Talib, who's a more experienced defender, a Super Bowl winner with the Broncos the year they beat the Pats in the run-up to that. So is he going to switch Aqib Talib onto are they going to switch Aqib Talib onto Julian Edelman? And if they do, then they're losing where Aqib Talib is effective. You know what I mean? You're losing him in the other parts of the secondary. So that opens up other players for big plays, the likes of Gronk. Well, speaking of Gronk, the thing is, he's not the Gronk of old. He could be possibly the best tight end to ever play the game, but he's not the best tight end this year. That's Travis Kelce. You're getting a lot of diminished returns from Gronk. Brady isn't looking to him as often as he does, but he is still a go-to when needed. You look at last week, Gronk was the person that Brady threw to when they needed to get into field goal range against the Chiefs. And he absolutely succeeded. Again, in the earlier classic against the Chiefs in the regular season, Gronk was the go-to when they needed to get into field goal range. So he will turn to him in important times. In important times, you're looking at Edelman and Gronk. The problem is that you can look at them all you like. They're still probably going to catch the ball if Brady wants them to. It's stopping them that is the problem, because they're athletic freaks. You think back to Edelman's amazing catch in the Super Bowl against the Falcons a couple of years ago. Like, they do some death-defying stuff. And Brady will lean on them a lot. So then you look at the defensive battle. And Wade Phillips, the defensive coordinator for the LA Rams, who's built an absolute force. Like, if you look at the Rams, it's absolutely incredible. There's some, like, guaranteed Hall of Famers there. We spoke about Aaron Ronald already. They've also got Ndamukong Suh on there. They've got Aqib Talib, as we spoke about. They have an absolute superstar lineup, and they've one of the best defensive minds in the game coaching them. In fact, a defensive mind who defensively leaning coach Bill Belichick has admitted in the past he really respects, because Wade Phillips basically basically plays his system and he never changes it. And Belichick has said that's something that's near impossible to do in the NFL. Belichick is known as a tinkerer on defense. He'll always change things up to suit his opposition. Wade Phillips just has his style, and it works more often than not. The problem for the Pats is it works against Brady. He's got a track record. You look at the game against the Broncos 3 years ago. That was the last time Pats scored less than 20 in a playoff game. Brady took more hits in that game where Wade Phillips was the defensive coordinator for the Broncos, and he posted the worst playoff QBR that he ever posted. So he'll have to rely heavily on James White and the run game. And James White, by the way, James White, so the Pats run game has been interesting this year. James White has been one of the stars of the season for him and a revelation, even in the playoffs. He's the only player in history to have over 14 receptions in 2 playoff games, or more. So, James White is a factor. He's more a factor in the passing game, though, because he's a running back who'll be used in play action, which is where the quarterback pretends to hand off to the running back, but then makes a short throw. James, and then the running back can obviously run. That's his main job, but he can catch passes as well, so he's a dual threat. That's where James White comes into play. But the running game for New England is dangerous as well. If you look at and how they can do against the Rams. The Rams have been weak against the runs. You can get at them. They've given up 122.3 yards per game and 15 touchdowns against the run during the season. They have teams have a 20.6% success rate against them on first down, and they've given up 12 runs of over 20 yards throughout the season. So you can get big plays on them. That's a problem for them because Sonny Michel, who is the more traditional running back, who doesn't really catch passes, he'll just run the ball when you see him on the field. He's been an absolute beast for the Pats in the playoffs. He's rattled off 2 100-plus yard games and scored 5 touchdowns against the Chargers and the Chiefs. He's been an absolute beast. That's got to be something that they could worry about. So could you see the Pats winning this on the ground? Could you see that being effective enough? Could you see James White and Sonny Michel basically being the defining factors in this game as opposed to Tom Brady, or will it all rest on Brady's shoulders?
I think it will all rest on Brady's shoulders. I think in the first half, because if he is getting absolutely walloped by the defensive end, getting sacks, going down, having to pass early and pass inaccurately, then you might see a change up in the second half. Or even if that happens early on, then Brady or Belichick just couldn't right, let's run at them a few times, see how that works. It all depends on the first few plays. If they get a few yards off them, particularly run, it's not even get a first and 10 every time. It's get us to 2nd and 5, 3rd and 2, something like that, where you're okay, there is room there to run. We just need to find the hole. So as the game wears on, it'll be really interesting to watch. So
let's look at the LA Rams offense against the New England Patriots defense. Bill Belichick is a bastard, but he's a lovable bastard. He is, because his game plan against defenses, and we've seen it time and time again, particularly in Super Bowl, is he picks out your best 2 or 3 options and he neutralizes them. He puts all his resources. Then what he does is he dares you to win using no-name players. He dares you to win not using your big stars, and he's had tremendous success against this. He is a mastermind of the game. So the problem is he's going to target the likes of Todd Gurley, a running back, who we'll discuss in a second, and Brandon Cooks, the former New England Patriots player, of course, at wide receiver, meaning that a lot of the load in the Rams game may lie with the likes of CJ Anderson and Josh Reynolds. Sean McVay, on his side, has made adjustments for the playoffs, switching from running 11 on offense 90% of the time, which is 1 running back, 3 wide receivers, and 1 tight end, and then you have your offensive line, obviously, in there to make up the numbers, and quarterback. To running 12 instead with 2 tight ends 31% of the time since week 16. 90% of the time is a huge way to run 11, but there's a reason that they do that. It's because of Todd Gurley in the play action game. You have 2 teams who, with Todd Gurley and James White, use play action again, which if you've forgotten, because I know if you're a newer fan you're taking it a lot, is when you fake a handoff to the running back and then throw the ball, usually short. Whereas the Pats do it with James White and use it to get short throws, what the Rams will do it with is they'll try to open up big plays with Todd Gurley because he can go a variety of different ways. So it depends on what McVay wants to do. If he sees that Belichick is forcing him to use Josh Reynolds in the passing game, we might see a reliance on the double tight end set of Gerald Everett and Tim Higbee. I know, I haven't heard much of them either. And that's a problem going into the Super Bowl where you want to rest in your stars. The thing I think is the key to the Rams' offensive plan here is they need to go back to basics. They need to go back to play action. They've been splitting snaps with CJ Anderson, who's played great since they signed him when Gurley went down late in the regular season. They've been splitting snaps pretty evenly between him and Gurley. The thing is, they need to go back to running 11, and they need to go back to their game plan that saw so much success early in the season. The reason being, CJ Anderson can't do play action as well. CJ Anderson runs in straight lines. He's an absolute beast who can get through anyone if in a one-on-one matchup, but he runs in straight lines. So teams know what's going to happen, even if it's in play action, if CJ Anderson's on the field. When Todd Gurley's on field and he's most effective, he can go anywhere and do anything, which means teams have to question it. It's like, do we all pile in for the run? Do we stand back because Todd Gurley's going to go into play action and there's going to be a big throw coming up here? That's the difference with the Pats and the Rams on play action. Whereas James White, you're like, right, this is going to be a short throw, but James White is a little bollocks who can scamper anywhere. Todd Gurley is like, he opens up the field where they can get a huge play off of play action off Todd Gurley. The problem is, Gurley went down in the late regular season, which necessitated CJ Anderson. He hasn't been 100% since he came back. That's why they've been splitting snaps. He scored the most touchdowns in the season. They're not splitting snaps because he's not good. He's great when he's on form, but he's not 100% healthy so far. He's had 2 weeks to rest. So if he can get back to 100%, if he can perform as they did in the regular season, the thing is, the Chiefs found the vulnerability last week with play action against the Pats 2 weeks ago in the championship game. The Pats are susceptible to that game plan. They allowed a 61% success rate with 11 personnel and 6.8 yards per catch. So you can get big gains on the Pats if you run play action properly. The problem is they need Gurley 100%. He's had 2 weeks to recover. We don't know where that's at. The Rams are going to keep that close to their chest because they won't want to know, Bill Belichick, of all people, to know what their game plan is. So, where do you see this lining up in terms of the Rams attacking? Will they be able to get at New England? Will Gurley be able to be effective?
Possibly. I mean, like Gurley, he is he's an MVP running back. He's always in the number one pick if you're doing a fantasy football league. He's either him or someone else. It's usually Le'Veon Bell, but of course this year was Matt Ryan for Jer Kearns, the real Irish.
Great time to get that dig in.
So, apart from that, usually he's in the one. He's an incredible running back when you give him the ball on the ground. But as you mentioned, he hasn't been 100% in the last couple of weeks. And you never know with this Super Bowl as well, where things happen. He could come on to get the first snap and suddenly go down hurt. And then it's all on CJ Anderson, and I wouldn't fancy that. So when he's on form, he is by far their best weapon. But I don't know if he's going to be I don't know if he's back 100%. I don't want to make that call. And if he isn't, even if he's 98%, that still won't be good enough.
Here's an interesting side note as well. I just thought of this off the top of my head. And it's just a subplot. I'm not saying it's going to be effective, but the last time the Pats weren't in the Super Bowl, they lost the Broncos in the championship game. We talked about how Wade Phillips was there. Interesting one. And remember, of course, that was the year Peyton Manning finally won the big one, but he wasn't playing at his best. Who was the most effective Broncos offensive player that year that the Pats didn't win the Super Bowl? It was CJ Anderson. I'm just saying I'm not saying it's going to be a factor. I'm just saying it's an interesting subplot that I hadn't thought of. And this game is riddled with them. But ultimately, that's how the teams line up on the field. We don't have any definitive answers. We just have guesses based on recent history. So for me, trying to predict the result comes down to these factors. The big questions we're asking ourselves here. Will Gurley be 100% and as effective as we've seen him in the regular season, but not in the playoffs? The sad truth is that the recent evidence points to no there. Will Sean McVay be able to come up with a master plan to beat Bill Belichick like Doug Peterson did last year? Well, look, last time out, he relied on a pass interference no call to win. He got humbled in the wild card last season after going in as one of the dark horse tips. We've seen before that in the playoffs, Sean McVay is prone to bottling it, and it's not as if he reassured us with a convincing win over the New Orleans Saints last week. So we don't know is the simple answer. Will Wade Phillips be able to keep Brady's effectiveness to a minimum? The evidence points to yes here. even Bill Belichick respects the shit out of Wade Phillips. Brady, I don't think they're even going to lean on Brady that much. They'll lean on him when they need to, but I don't think it's going to be a Brady workhorse game. I think they're going to run the ball a lot, and they can do that effectively, so I think that's going to be Bill Belichick's plan A. Because I think we know that Wade Phillips can get to Brady, and he knows kind of the secrets to beating Tom Brady. So then it becomes, will Sonny Michel be able to counteract that? Yes, I think so. I think he's been an absolute beast. I think he's come into his own in the off-season. And the problem there is that even if Sean McVay plans for Sonny Michel, even if he says, right, we're going to, Wade Phillips, do your thing against Tom Brady, we know how to do that, and we're going to line everything up against Sonny Michel to make sure he's not a factor. Well, the Pats have options at running back. They have James White, as we spoke about earlier. They also have Rex Burkhead that they can throw into the mix. They also have Devlin as well that they can stick in there. The Pats have so many options at running back, and we've seen how Belichick can use that. He can make a star out of running back nobody has ever heard of on Sunday, who just happens to be on the roster and has been bench warming all season. Belichick decides it's going to be your day, kid, and he gets 4 touchdowns and wins the whole thing. That's a problem for the Rams. Will the Rams offense be able to capitalize if Belichick can neutralize Gurley and Cooks? I'm not confident that Josh Reynolds, Gerald Everett, and Tim Higbee are names we're going to be talking about on Monday. Will Nickel Roby-Coleman be able to handle Edelman when he is Brady's go-to in important games? No. Just no. So that tells me where the narrative is pointing. I think the big story in this game will be there's going to be karma for Nickel Roby-Coleman. I think Brady signs off with his 6th and last Super Bowl by beating the team he won his first against. And that's the story we will talk about in 10 years from now. I think the Pats win this. It's going to be low scoring. I think they win 24-20. I think Sonny Michel is going to get the MVP. I'm going all in. He served me well on my fantasy team. I think this is his night. Kento, what are the factors that it comes down to for you, and what's your prediction?
I'm thinking the whole story of the season. We're not kind of an off story of the season. It's been Sean McVay's memory. He can remember every play he's ever called, essentially, and also every play that he's ever faced. So you're looking then, it's right, what do you know about the Patriots that isn't on tape? Can you remember what happened X, Y, and Z? And then when it all comes down to it, does that really matter? No, it doesn't, because it's a new game. And Belichick will have learned from his mistakes. McVay will have learned from his mistakes. Last year we had this argument. It was maybe not this exact argument, but it was similar enough. It's Brady against, and not an unknown, but someone they should be beating. Obviously the Eagles and the Rams, 2 completely different teams. But I think Brady possibly has learned from a lot from last year as well. Belichick certainly will have. I can't argue with myself in my head that the Rams are going to beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl, especially when it's Brady and Belichick who have been here so many times before. It's God's first Super Bowl, and I'm not that he's going to be confounded by he's going to forget how to play when he comes into Georgia on Sunday. But it's just it's someone who's been there against someone who's not, and it's someone who's been there a lot, and that just means to me that I can't see the Patriots losing this one. I also agree in the sense that it's going to be low scoring because top defenses in terms of the Rams' top defense, but then Brady's great offense as well. So I don't know about scoreline, but I just can't see the Patriots losing.
It's illuminating how little we've talked about Jared Goff, the quarterback for the Rams, and a good quarterback at that. But again, absolutely, it's just the doubts about Gurley that play into it. And then when you're looking at that, when you're not really focusing on Goff, when nobody's looking at Goff, that could spell a big game. Maybe Sean McVay has a master plan and Goff's going to absolutely blow up. Look, we didn't expect much out of Nick Foles last year either, so who knows?
True.
But if you're betting on it, you have to go with the Pats. So there are other bets that you can get interested in. There's always prop bets with the Super Bowl, and that can be fun too. So I'm going to give you some of my favourites. Kento, have you got any prop bets lined up for Sunday? Or
no, but I've agreed with a couple of yours that I can see here.
Okay, interesting. First off, always a Super Bowl favourite. Will there be a safety? Safety is when, if you don't know, say when the quarterback gets the ball snapped to him and he's in the end zone and he throws it out of play or deliberately grounds it and doesn't make an attempt to pass it. That's what a team gets 2 points for a safety. Then, I always say yes because it's just a fun bet to make. So I'm going to go yes. You get 13-2 odds because it is rare there is a safety in the game, but Super Bowls have a weirdly high frequency for having one, and weird shit can happen in Super Bowls. So I'm going for yes here, 13-2. Total points for this game, like we said, I think this is going to be a low scoring game, and that's traditional with Super Bowls. You can get the like last year was an absolute shit show. It was a total like two teams just firing off on each other, but in general, Super Bowls tend to be like low-scoring, tense games. We saw both of the championship games where both of these teams involved were low-scoring, were tense. You're not seeing peak teams. They weren't the number one seed, so you're not seeing teams at their peak. You're seeing teams eke it out with a game plan. So I think under 56.5 as for total points is a bargain at 20-23. Here's where it gets interesting. Will the Pats score a touchdown in the first quarter? One of the weird anomalies of the Brady and Belichick era is they haven't ever done so in 8 previous Super Bowls. They've scored a total, in fact, this will astonish you if you haven't heard it already. Total points they've scored in the first quarter in their 8 Super Bowls. 3. That's not an average. That's the total. They scored 3 points against the Eagles last season. That was their first ever first quarter points. They're like kind of a wily old boxer who like figures out your game plan, who like uses the first quarter to see, right, what are they throwing at us, and then they take you apart in the later rounds. That's what the Pats do. That's Brady and Belichick's mantra. And if it wasn't Brady and Belichick, I'd say that's just a weird anomaly stat. But I think that is part of the plan. Not that they plan not to score. I think they would if they could, but I think they know, right, it's a game over 4 quarters, let's play the 4 quarters. If we don't score in the first quarter, it's not the end of the world, let's just figure this team out. So you'll get 5-6 on them not scoring in the first quarter, but you'll also get evens on LA to win the first quarter, so slightly better odds. I'd go with that. Points scored in the highest scoring quarter. I couldn't find odds for this on Paddy Power, but Vegas are taking it in the sports book, so you might be able to find. You might have better success. I couldn't look through every what odds Paddy that there was. There's an insane amount. There's about 1,000 bets for this game. I did try very hard to find it, but points scored in the highest scoring quarter. Vegas is having the line at over under 21. I'm going under 21 here because of the 144 quarters played by both teams this season, only 13 of them between the two teams had over 21 points. So I'm going under on this. And again, Super Bowls tend to be tense, tight affairs a lot of the time. Here's an interesting one. Sonny Michel and Todd Gurley to combine for 200 plus yards and 3 plus touchdowns. 6-1. I think a lot of this game is going to be based on the ground. Like I said, Tom Brady, Wade Phillips may have his number. I think the Pats are going to plan around that and have Sonny Michel be a big factor. I think Todd Gurley as well. We haven't talked about Jared Goff enough, so I think they'll make up the numbers between them. I think there's going to be a lot of rushing touchdowns here. 6-1 is a bargain for me with that.
I like that bet.
Also, Julian Edelman and Josh Reynolds to both score 5-1. We spoke about Edelman being Brady's go-to. We spoke about how the Pats may dare the Rams to throw to Josh Reynolds. So I think they're going to be successful on one. 5-1 is another bargain for me. Here's another random anomaly and just a stat from Pats Super Bowls because they're an entity unto themselves. Steven Gostkowski, maybe one of the most legendary kickers in NFL history, has formed for missing extra points in big games. When the Broncos beat the Pats in the AFC Championship we spoke about, missed an extra point, left the Pats needing 2. When the Falcons played them in the Super Bowl, the Pats needed 2 points to complete the comeback. The reason they needed 2 points is because Gostkowski missed a kick earlier on in the game, and he did it again versus the Eagles last year. A Pats missed extra point, if you're looking for it, it's a PAT, it's called in Paddy Power, is 11-2. Those are really good odds. So there you go, guys. That's ours. That's our tips. Anything else you want to add before Sunday?
No, just go Pats, I presume, because I really don't want to see the Rams win it.
Why don't you want to see the Rams win it?
They don't look. Just the Saints call still rankles with me.
All right, that's
and also
fair.
it's a nice end to the Belichick storyline, or not the Belichick, the Brady storyline.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. Okay, interesting. The Pats being the ones cheered on. I was cheering them on against the Falcons.
I feel sick doing it, but
I was cheering them on against the Falcons a few years ago, and I felt dirty. But like the comeback was too good not to get into. So yeah, I do understand that. Anyway, look, that's the NFL. Send us your picks as well. What do you think is going to happen? It's not counting towards the prediction league, guys. Before you ask, no, it's not counting. I can't figure out how I'm going to make an NFL prediction league work.
Yeah,
I'd love to one day, so we'll see how that goes. But we're going to talk
that'd be a mess.
We're going to talk about our prediction league now, because we're going to get onto the Premier League. That returns this week after a week off for the FA Cup. Of course, we had the midweek fixtures, which provided loads of headlines as well. We're going to discuss them. The Premier League is back, and that means our prediction league is back. If you are a new listener and you want to get involved in our prediction league, it's a perfect time, because it's the first weekend of February, which means we're starting a new monthly competition, where if you win our monthly competition, even if you can't win the overall competition, which we've been running since August, if you win our monthly competition, you get a free month subscription to Low Blows VOD. All you have to do is get onto the Paddy's New Yacht Twitter, at Paddy's New Yacht, all one word, no apostrophes or anything like that, no messing, it's Twitter. All you have to do is we'll post up a tweet about 6 o'clock on Thursday, whenever you're listening to this. If it's after that, it'll be up there. It'll probably be our pinned tweet. All you have to do is quote tweet that with your correct scores for the 10 Premier League games this week and an anytime goal scorer. You get 1 point for correct outcome, you get 2 points for if your anytime goal scorer scores, and you get 3 points if the correct score comes in. So a total of 6 points per game, total of 60 points if you are successful in all the games, which nobody ever is. You're not going to be, but see how well you do anyway. It's a bit of crack, and it makes the weekend interesting. Me and Kento wanted to play along and wanted to get involved. So what we did is we handicapped ourselves, because it's not fair if we win and take the prizes. So we have to give our picks now. As we take this on Thursday morning, we don't know the latest team news. There may be something breaking afterwards, and if that happens, then just tough shit. We have to give our picks now. So as soon as the words come out of our mouth, those picks are locked in for the weekend. So we're going to start with the Premier League action with Spurs against Newcastle, the early on Saturday. And Kento, when it comes to the early, we have one golden rule here on Paddy's New Yacht, and that is on 3. 1, 2, 3. Don't bet on the early. Yeah, we're back.
We're really syncing up here now. This is beautiful.
Spurs continues the crisis dodge without Harry Kane midweek, having to complete a second come-from-behind win in a row in the league against Watford. But you have to wonder how sustainable that is and where the goals will come from. They've only scored 6 in their last 6 games now. Meanwhile, Newcastle will come into this riding high after delivering a huge shock and blow to Man City's title hopes during the week for their second home win in a row. The problem is their away form, though. They've scored just 9 times away this season. So I'm predicting this to be tight and nervy, with Spurs again getting out of jail with a 1-0 win. Son to score, but they won't keep getting away with this until Kane comes back.
Yeah, look, Rafa's men pulled off the shock in the midweek fixtures when they had the opportunity to lift it on a silver platter to go 7 points clear. It's a repeat in the opening day where Dele Alli helped squeeze past the Magpies. That was a very tight game. Newcastle won 4 of the last 10 meetings, though, including hilariously a 5-1 on the last day of 2016 to cost Spurs a Champions League place. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. That despite knocking off the champions, Newcastle are still only 5 points clear of the relegation zone. The current form is kind of mixed. They've defeats to United, Liverpool and Chelsea, mixed in with wins and draws with those around them. But as you mentioned, their away form isn't great. Spurs are involved in a fight for the top 4, and some are even saying maybe the title. They're only 2 points off City, and they can heap the pressure on Chelsea and Arsenal, and now Man United, as we'll get to, with a win in the early. I'm going to go 2-1, and I'm going to go for Son as well, because of his last, I think it's 11 games. He's got 8 goals and 6 assists.
Moving on to the 3 p.m. games, and these are bet-safe games, though. Tread cautiously here. Brighton against Watford. Watford must have thought they were on their way to a dream scalp on Wednesday before Spurs' aforementioned late dramatics, and it snapped a 6-game unbeaten streak in a decent couple of months. That's really only seen them lose to the big sides, but pick up a lot of draws and winnable games. Brighton were also the victims of a comeback loss, but theirs is near inexcusable as they conceded 4 unanswered to be felled by Fulham. So you've got 2 wounded sides who'd probably just settle for a bit of stability with Brighton at home and Watford away here. These matches between the two are typically low scoring anyway, so I've got this finishing 0-0.
Yeah, sounds about right. It's an acca fuck for me. Watford will feel aggrieved having not put away Spurs for being caught late by Fernando Llorente, of all people. Brighton, as you mentioned, absolutely capitulated themselves, blowing a 2-goal lead by the team 4 times in 43 minutes to Fulham. However, they play much better at home, and more importantly for me, they have an extra day of rest. So I'll take them here. I'm going to go 2-0. I'm going to go Glenn Murray, who seems to be coming into form again.
Oh, interesting. Burnley against Southampton, and if you're talking acca fucks, this is a massive acca fuck between two sides who are slowly but surely moving in the right direction. Burnley will be devastated not to have brought to an end to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's winning streak on Tuesday, but can still take a lot of pride in the performance. Maybe the 2 points lost will spell determination for them. Southampton had to come from behind to draw at home to 10-man Palace, which is less impressive. But Ralph Hasenhüttl's men are still sneakily 6 games undefeated in all competitions. If there's a winner here, they could end the day as high as 14th, while the loser could be 1 point off the relegation zone, results pending. So I see both sides going out to win it here. The last 2 games between them have ended in draws, but I see Burnley having a bit more about them to get something. I'm going to pick them to win 2-1 with Ashley Barnes to score.
Yeah, I mean, listen, of all the things you want to go up on Sky Sports at 3 p.m. on a Saturday, especially when you've got Chelsea involved in 3 p.m. kickoff, and Sky went for this.
I don't know, it could be a good game.
It could be a good game. It can also be an absolute shitfest.
Yeah.
Southampton held on well against Palace and then snuck an equaliser through James Ward-Prowse, who has 3 in his last 2 games. When, as you mentioned, Burnley somehow left 2 points behind him in Old Trafford despite leading 2-0 with 9 minutes to play. That must annoy Sean Dyche, especially when a win there could have, he is under a little bit of pressure. Saints haven't won this fixture in the last 5 attempts, but I think they've got enough about them. And as you mentioned, that unbeaten running under Hasenhüttl, that's a advertising for the new manager bounce if I've ever seen one. So I think they get another win here, with Ward-Prowse continuing his scoring form and got for a 2-1 away win. Probably my most ballsy call this week, yeah.
That's a ballsy one. Oh, I don't know about that. Remember, Burnley are 5 unbeaten in the league too, so they've got a streak coming into this, and they're at home. Anyway, look, moving on. Chelsea against Huddersfield, which is also sneakily an acca fuck, because just what Chelsea side are we going to get here? Is it going to be the side who advanced to both the FA Cup and beat Spurs in the Carabao in the reaction to Maurizio Sarri's bollocking, or is it the side who got trashed 4-0 at Bournemouth during the week to look like Sarri had lost the dressing room? They're so difficult to predict week to week, but fortunately we've got a bit of consistency in Huddersfield to gauge, because even now under new boss Jan Sievert, Huddersfield are consistently shit as they sit 12 points off safety and lost in the new manager's first game against out of form Everton, which might look like it's the result you'd expect, but I had Huddersfield in that one. I thought Everton bad away from home, new manager bounce. This is all lining up, and they still lost, so still shit. I think that should be enough for Chelsea to limp to victory here, knowing that another defeat could push them as far as 6th place. 2-0 with Higuain to get off the mark for his new club.
I'd say I can do. Huddersfield weren't even able to get their shit together long enough during the week to get the new manager balance, which is the easiest thing, as we've seen from the likes of Ranieri or Hasenhüttl. They just couldn't do it. They've only won twice all year, and not since November in the league. We're in February now. More depressingly for them is that they've only scored 5 times in that period. They've scored 5 goals in 2-3 months.
Jesus.
That's not going to keep you up in any division ever. They were outclassed in September in the repeated fixture. They'll be outclassed against here by an angry Chelsea who, Sarri kept them in for a bollocking again in nearly an hour after the Bournemouth defeat, and the last time he kept them in, they won the next game if I'm wrong, and then they just went out and lost 4-0 to Bournemouth. So I'm going to go for 3-0. I'm also going to go for Higuain, because if he doesn't score here, I'd start worrying.
Yeah, it's interesting. Palace against Fulham. The plebeian may look at this as an upset special, with Fulham coming off a morale-boosting win midweek and Palace missing Zaha after his red card against Southampton. But look a little closer. Fulham still haven't won away from home all season. Now, they haven't won much anywhere, mind, and Ranieri will want to capitalise on this blip of good form, but I still don't see them getting much here. Maybe I'm giving Palace too much respect here after their Leicester-style run to challenge me for the league title in FIFA, but Fulham's 2 points away all season has me scared off, so I see Palace eking out a 2-1 win here with Milivojevic to score.
Yeah, look, I mean, they've lost Wilfried Zaha to a sarcastic clap, and that does wound him. He might not have scored that many goals. He actually ended a drought in September in finding a net, but most of Palace's attacks went through either him or Andros Townsend. So now it's all on Townsend for that matter, or maybe Max Meyer, who's injured. I don't know. I'm not going to predict, because otherwise I'll get caught. Fulham, as you mentioned, they haven't won on the run all season, which explains why they are where they are. But it's coming to the time where they're going to have to start winning. to try and get themselves out of the mire. 6 points off at the moment. If you go any further than that, you're kind of writing them off. Whereas Ranieri has been like a really big morale boosting win. Might have seen them click in maybe not at the right time, but with enough time left to get another couple and maybe try and fight them the way out. So I'm going to go for 2-1 to Fulham with Mitrovic scoring. They like it was all in the second half as well, which means that like Ranieri says something like, right, this is what you're doing. This is what's going to happen. You're going to come out and you're going to score this time. You're going to run through these. They managed to put 4 past them. Like 3, fair enough, because that's a cut from behind late win. 4 is comfortable. So I think at this stage they're gonna have to start winning sometime.
Look, Fulham are playing well. Like, they don't have to start winning. We've seen teams lose all the time and just lose out and get relegated miserably. That happens a lot.
Yeah, but to stay up, they have to start winning.
Yeah, but no, look, I don't think it's a crazy pick. Fulham have played well. Remember the Spurs game a couple of weeks ago as well. But you're betting. I just think it's risky. You're betting on something that hasn't happened, that we haven't seen. You're betting on something that's due.
I'm not betting anywhere near it.
Yeah, I know, but like you're picking something that's due here, and that's a fallacy. That's one of our golden don'ts. Anyway, look, moving on. Last 3 p.m. game, Everton against Wolves, and like I said earlier, Everton shocked me midweek in beating Huddersfield. I didn't give them a prayer with their shocking away form, but maybe Marco Silva might have finally roused them back to themselves. They still lie in 8th, so this poor run of form hasn't been catastrophic, and they're just 2 points off their visitors in what could end up being a fascinating clash. Things have gotten a little smoother for the Toffees at home, though, having lost just twice in 9, even during their blip. But they can be leaky at the back still, while Wolves have only failed to score 3 times in 13 games. Wolves also have issues keeping clean sheets away, though. So in a fixture between two sides battling for position, I see it disappointingly finishing in a draw, but an entertaining, spirited one all the same. 2-2, Sigurdsson to score.
Yeah, look, it's a really meh Portuguese manager managing a meh side in a meh season. It's a great Portuguese manager with a talented side in a great season for them. I'm really wondering why this isn't a late game. Earlier in the year, Wolves came from behind twice to gain a draw despite having an extra man for 3/4 of the game on the opening weekend. This weekend, Everton are without Lucas Digne, who annoyed thousands of fantasy football players by getting himself sent off midweek. I transferred him out. I was absolutely delighted. That win over Huddersfield stopped a run of 5 away defeats. They've only won 4 times since the start of November, though. As you mentioned, they've all come at home. Wolves have wins over Spurs and Chelsea in that time, and despite a slight hiccup against Shrewsbury, are arguably the best team to watch in 2019 so far. But, as you mentioned, Everton are kind of sticky at home, so I'll bottle this call, and I'll go for 1-1 with him in it. Okay,
interesting. Yeah, look, I agree with the 5:30 game thing here. I think the 5:30 game this week is one of those where Sky are trying to get every team involved. It's not great. Cardiff against Bournemouth. It's not great. The wheels seem to have come off for Neil Warnock's men. In the last 5, the only non-defeat has been a draw against Huddersfield at home that they'll consider an absolute disaster not to have won. And that includes when they played Gillingham in the Cup, of course. Unfortunately for them, they face a Huddersfield side who may be back, coming off 2 hugely impressive wins over Chelsea and West Ham. The only optimistic note for Warnock is that those wins were at home, as Eddie Howe's side have lost 6 on the trot away. Still, it's hard not to be confident after beating Chelsea 4-0, and if you're looking to break that streak, Cardiff are exactly the side you'd want to face right now. So I'm picking Bournemouth 2-1 with Joshua King to continue his run of scoring, as Callum Wilson is expected to be out again.
Damn, I thought you were going to predict Huddersfield there. As much as an emotional day this will be for Cardiff, Bournemouth will kind of be coming to spoil the occasion. 14 of Cardiff's 19 points so far have come at home, and they badly need 3 more here. The problem is, as you mentioned, Josh King is on fire. 3 goals and 2 assists in the last 2 games. Have Chelsea fans asking, why didn't we go after him instead of Callum Wilson and Gonzalo Higuain? I've also gone for 2-1 away, and I've also gone for Josh King.
Let's move on. Let's move on to a tasty set of Sunday and Monday games. Like, Sky have done well here, lads. Pat on the back. Congratulations. That's a fucking excellent move. Like, and it's one of those things where it's like every game counts towards the next as well. Like, it's fantastic. Starting with Leicester against Man United Sunday at 2 p.m. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer can dare to dream, as there's a very real chance United could finish the weekend in the Champions League spots, with Chelsea out of sorts and Arsenal facing City in Sunday's other tie. But, as Dumbledore once told Harry Potter, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live. And in real life, Solskjaer has his first true test as Man United manager and having to come from behind to get a point against Burnley midweek. Plus, he's not returning to the theatre of dreams. He's going to the Vitality, possibly minus Paul Pogba, to meet the side who cock-blocked Liverpool from going 7 points ahead in the title race following City's slip. Leicester also love a scalp and have beaten both City and Chelsea recently, so Klopp knows exactly how to rally the troops for a big game, and inflicting Solskjaer's first loss would be exactly the type of result they'll rally for. Still, despite the warning signs on Tuesday, this is bias talking. Don't try this at home, folks. I can't back against United until they lose, until I see it happen. But let the record show I am very nervous about this game. I've got it finishing 1-1. I've got Maddison to score.
Ollie is still unbeaten and showed the United of old in air quotes and coming behind against Burnley midweek. On paper, this one for me is simpler, particularly when you use FMQ. Form, obviously United. Motivation, from 14 points behind in the race for fourth, United are now within striking distance in the Champions League spots. So that's definitely United. And quality, come on, it's definitely United. Which has me on high alert for an upset because it's so nailed on in my head. Leicester beat City and Chelsea over Christmas, but have become a bit of a dumpster fire since then, which they kind of started to put out against Liverpool in the snow with Harry Maguire. But when United locked on to target in Champions League, I'm going to take them away from home in a cracker. 3-2, Marcus Rashford to score.
Look, you've made me feel a lot better with FMQ there. I have to say.
It's the basics. It's our basis as we like in our betting for those new listeners. Form, motivation, quality. Who wins? Order. That's who's going to win.
Yeah, there you go. Right, let's move on to Man City against Arsenal, the main event on Sunday. Absolutely fantastic. And look, wasn't Tuesday brilliant? For weeks we've been saying, look out, City are pissed. Oh, they've been banging in 9 goals and 7 goals in games. Then for no reason whatsoever, they slip at Newcastle to blow the title race wide open. Look, we can't overreact and be like, this is it. It's all over for City off the back of one loss. That'd make us Liverpool fans. And Liverpool fans are never right. So we're not going to do that. So let's be real here. Before Tuesday, City had won 7 straight and were in ominous form. Pep is going to be pissed after that loss, and we all know what happens when Pep is pissed. Plus, Liverpool failed to deliver the nail into the coffin, so there's still hope. If Liverpool had won on Wednesday, maybe I'd be calling this differently because City would be browbeaten and broken after their loss. As it stands, they still have a chance to redeem themselves. Arsenal won't go down without a fight though, but it's tough to tell what Arsenal side you're getting in big games. They put up a fight after going 2-0 down to United, but after one good round, lost from their still. They lost 5-1 to Liverpool a few weeks ago, but they also beat Spurs 4-2 in one of the games of the season in December, so there's that too. But the key for me is going back to the season opener, in the Emirates by the way, where City comfortably handled them 2-0. A pissed off Pep knows how to beat Unai Emery. So that's the KO blow for me. I'm going to pick City 2-1. I'm going to pick Sterling to score.
Yeah, the narrative of this will be poor Arsenal having to deal with City, who can now not afford to lose any more games. Where have we seen this before? Oh yeah, nowhere. City won the last 4 meetings, scoring 11 and conceding just once. Arsenal haven't beaten them in the league in 4 years, which is a mental stat when you think about it. Because I remember back when the City kind of juggernaut started in 2011, 2012, Arsenal had their number in the Emirates particularly. I remember 1-2-1 Giroud with a late header. It was like Arsenal had their number. So it's weird. That's a really weird stat for me. Yes, they won midweek, and yes, Denis Suarez, and most likely, because obviously we're recording now at the start of the deadline day, Yannick Carrasco will probably be playing for them, but there's still a big question over Emery and his squad, particularly with Mesut Ozil. He was captain on midweek and the Arsenal 1-2-1 against Cardiff. So that marginally stops my usual City logic. For new listeners, my City logic is, are City better than the team that they're playing at home? Yes, grand, I'll hammer them. But they'll still get the win here to ward off the unlikely Spurs challenge. I've also gone for 2-1. I've also gone for Sterling.
Okay, interesting. Now we move on to Monday night. If City do win, the pressure's going to be on, as Liverpool have to travel to West Ham. And look, if you know Liverpool, you'll know a few things. They mess up title races when they really shouldn't. They'll lose inexplicably at inopportune moments. And last but not least, they love to score 4 goals against West Ham. Seriously. They've done it the last 4 times the two have played. It's really weird. That's not great for a Hammer side coming off 3 straight losses where they conceded a total of 9 goals. So could it happen again? Probably not. Liverpool haven't been great themselves of late, and let's look at their recent form. They had back-to-back losses to start the year. They struggled to beat Brighton and Palace before wasting a huge opportunity to capitalise on City midweek. But it's enough for me to think they'll win here. I'm picking Liverpool to win 2-0, Salah to score.
Yeah, not ideal one for Liverpool, having slipped like Stevie against Leicester. Harry Maguire's got the largest head in football, and somehow Joel Matip managed to miss it sneaking into the back post. The Reds have conceded more goals in the last 5 games than they did in their previous 19, which would be a worry against any other side for me but West Ham. As you mentioned, they destroyed them 4-0 in the opening days. They just love scoring against them. The Hammers' mini revival in December has gone off the rails recently, and they've now lost their last 2 to Bournemouth and Wolves comfortably midweek. Those 2 defeats came on the road. They've won 5 of their last 6 home games. So it's really a weird one for me. Liverpool are more vulnerable when they're away from home. I don't know if Klopp will accept a point on the road, especially with City putting the pressure on. But I have a feeling that's what they're going to get on a wet, wintry night in East London. 1-1 Salah.
Oh, interesting. West Ham have been terrible, though. I just couldn't, Liverpool logic.
5 of the last 6 at home, though.
Liverpool logic is in play, but just recently, just watching them, the eye test as well, they've been bad. Anyway, look, we're going to talk Six Nations shortly, but before we do, we'll wrap off. We'll wrap up with the football and what you have to keep an eye for in Europe as well as the Premier League this weekend, because there is key ties in all the major leagues. Ligue 1, well, look, there's not much intrigue in the Ligue 1 title race. The only real question is if PSG can finish the season undefeated. So you've got to look for opportunities where said defeat may happen. This Saturday night is one such, because they travel to third place Lyon, who are 8 games undefeated in the league themselves. So well worth keeping an eye there. But PSG will still probably win. In the Liga, Barca are back with a vengeance, having won every game in the league since the start of December to top it as they look to build an unassailable league. And they also completed a 6-1 rout of Sevilla during the week in the Copa del Rey. This week they face a tricky test from Valencia on Saturday evening on 5:30 p.m. That's going to be on 11 Sports. Obviously 11 announced that they're keeping the La Liga rights. While the following afternoon, nearest rivals Atletico have a tricky tie of their own as they travel to 8th place Betis. I think that's on at 3 p.m. So let's face it. You're probably going to be watching Super Sunday, but maybe keep an eye on that on the side. Barca could finish the weekend either 8 points or 2 points ahead with the Clásico coming up. So well worth an eye to see if anything happens. This La Liga season has been unpredictable, though not recently with Barca. Could we see a slip here? Serie A, and what a shit time for 11 to lose the rights to Serie A as they're cut from the end of February just as it's getting great. The past 2 weekends have been absolute belters. Last week saw a 4-3 win for 10-man Fiorentina, which I loved, by the way. A 3-3 draw with Atalanta and Roma. Juve having to come from behind to beat Lazio, and Torino upsetting Inter. It's all kicking off just as it looked like it was dead. This week's offering sees Napoli having to take on Sampdoria after dropping points on Juve with a draw against Milan last week. Keeping in mind, Sampdoria won the reverse fixture 3-0, so that's going to be worth a watch. Then on Sunday night, 4th meets 5th as Roma host Milan, looking to nick their Champions League spot, so well worth an eye there. Lastly, we'll get on to
just before the Serie we go off Serie A, the Coppa Italia midweek, Juventus actually lost and Fiorentina destroyed Roma 7-1.
I saw that. It was awesome.
As you said, the worst possible time to lose the rights, because not only is the league getting interested, the cup is now getting into here as well.
Yeah,
mental week.
Premier Sports as well are taking it over, so that's bye-bye for Serie A for me this season, I guess.
Oh, it's so annoying.
Last but not least, in the Bundesliga, both Bayern and Dortmund held serve last week with tricky ties to maintain Dortmund's 6-point lead, but both face more tough tests away from home this week. Bayern, off the back of 7 straight wins, travel to Leverkusen, while Dortmund must visit 5th place Frankfurt, so worth keeping an eye there. But let's face it, a lot of our eyes are going to be on the Six Nations. Like I said at the top of the show, if you want to listen to our full preview with Neil Keegan, listen to last week's show. We got into it for about 20 minutes, so we're going to just discuss the ties that are coming up in the opening weekend, and Kendo, you're going to give us an acca as well. So talk us through what we need to keep an eye out for this weekend in the Six Nations.
Look, as in every competition, it's always very difficult to tell anything from the first week, which in the Six Nations makes it difficult because, as he meant, there's only 6 weeks. Kick it off Friday night. France against Wales. It's one where both sides can lay down markers for the World Cup, not the Six Nations, because I don't think France and Wales, well, maybe Wales, Gatland will want it in his last year, but France will be looking ahead to September as to where they can get the marker. So that one is tight enough. Even the bookies are thinking that as well. France and Wales are both evens for tomorrow night. They can't be split from the bookmakers. Scotland, Italy, a few years ago would have been very interesting, but now the Scots are getting good, and Italy's little mini revival has not lasted. Sergio Parise can't hold them together for much longer. Obviously, the main events, Twickenham, Ireland, England, it will be tight. Eddie Jones and all the England coaches have stoked the flames. An English win could spell a big bother for Ireland, or maybe it's a reality check about just how good Joe Schmidt's side is. With the rest of the ones, they come out with a good win. It's going to be tight either way. But I don't really want to bet on outcomes because I can't predict them. So I'm going to go for an anytime try scorer treble. Johan Huget for France, he's an excellent player. Keith Earls for Ireland because I think England will have learned from last year in the Six Nations where it was Jacob Stockdale. So I think Earls might get a look in there. And Greg Laidlaw for Scotland comes in nicely at about 9-1 depending on your bookmaker. But if you're going to go for match betting, I'd go for France, Ireland, and I'd take Scotland on the handicap.
Okay, interesting stuff. Dave, as well as the Six Nations, what are you keeping an eye on this weekend?
Favourite fact of the week. Right now, the top 5 tiers of English football are being led by teams beginning with the letter L. How many can you name off the top of your
head? Liverpool, Leeds.
Yeah.
Are Lincoln in there?
Lincoln are in there.
Yeah, total guess. I'm just trying to think of L teams.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm tapping. I'm
League, you're missing League One in the conference. League One, Luton Town, Portsmouth, and the conference one you probably wouldn't have gotten Leyton Orient.
Oh, I know Leyton Orient. Fuck.
Yeah, but you probably didn't know they were in the
like
conference.
I should have got them.
Yeah, but as you mentioned, Leeds, they're leading the championship. Last weekend was excellent for them because, yes, there was FA Cup, but there was still a couple of championship games as well. Leeds won late against Rotherham while they're meeting a second place Norwich and third place Sheffield United ended level, which means that Leeds have a 3-point gap at the top.
Ooh.
But they welcome the Canaries to Ellen Road this weekend, so Norwich can go top of the table. There's still 16-point games left after this weekend, but a potential 10-point gap to third for Leeds means they could have 1 foot in the Premier League with a win.
Ooh.
If they lose, it really opens up both the title race and the promotion race.
It feels like they're losing.
It's one of those games where old Leeds would bottle it completely and lose 3 or 4-0, but it's in Ellen Road.
Yeah.
So it's a massive, massive game.
And Bielsa knows what they're going to do as well. So he knows everything. It's grand.
Yeah, he knows every player that's played everywhere. Also, relative to the Allianz League, Dublin was shell-shocked by the Farney Army last week, but they're back on home soil in Croker this Saturday. Here's the problem. They're against the only other side to avoid defeat in a game against them all of last year in Galway. And Galway didn't even beat them. They threw a bad temp league game in Salt Hill before losing in the Allianz League final. So, I'm not saying there's a chance. There is a chance. But Dublin, as I mentioned, look vulnerable. If it was in Salt Hill again, I'd be back in Galway. But Croker, I can't call it. At the same time in Division 2, Meath travelled to Donegal. The Royals were the favourites to be relegated to Division 3 after a really bad off-season. While Donegal were nailed on to go back up, they both opened up with the wins. But a win for Andy McEnteen's team on the road puts them top with their toughest test out of the way and puts Meath in contention for promotion. Hurling highlight is Limerick at home to Tip after both ground out wins last weekend. The other games not really that interesting. Maybe Cork against Wexford. But there you are, lads.
Okay, interesting. Great weekend of sport.
It's a great weekend of sport.
What a weekend. This is just work on your arse groove, guys. Just sit in on the couch and just enjoy it all. Just inhale all of the sports coming your way.
Inhale the sport.
What a weekend coming up. I cannot fucking wait. Anyway, guys, that's us pretty much done for the week. But before we sign off, we're going to finish off with our weekly quiz where we test my colleague, esteemed journalist of the Daily Star and Buzz.ie, David Kent, on his sporting knowledge from the week, on stories he's generally reported. The problem is this week, you've been lazy, Dave. You haven't been up to much.
Haven't been working. That's the weekend off.
It's been a quiet week, so I've twisted it a little bit. All right, I've twisted it up.
That's okay. That's understandable.
3 questions. Dave has to get, on stories he's reported, Dave has to get 2 or more, and if he does, he gets a point. He is losing the season 11-10, so he can even it up with a win here. And this is gettable. You could do this, genuinely. I think you could do this one. We shall see. Anyway, 3 questions. Question 1. You did report, one of the stories you reported was on low blows going viral. And by the way, congrats and thank you. That was your video, we should mention, going viral during the week. Over 1 million views between various outlets, featured on Sports Illustrated. So, pretty cool week, even if you've been lazy. You've deserved a few days off, Dave, is all I'm saying. You reported on low blows going viral from buskers in the ball following Becky Lynch's Royal Rumble win on Sunday. But what was the match from a previous Royal Rumble that saw a low blows video go viral, and what year did it take place in?
See, Rock Punk in... It's either 2012 or 2013. When was fucking once in a lifetime? Okay. I think Cena won it in 2012 to set up the Miz match at Mania where Rock got involved, which was set up once in a lifetime for the title. Or was that for the title? The second one was it once in a lifetime? No, it wasn't, because The Rock won. Or did the Rock beat Punk? No, The Rock beat Punk. The Rock definitely beat Punk. And that was the shirt ripping.
Imagine you got the match wrong. And this is all just wasted time.
See, I don't know if you're double bluffing me there. The Rock was definitely involved with that shirt ripping, but I don't know if that was the match that you're talking about. I'm going to go Royal Rumble 2013.
Okay. Right, so you haven't written new articles this week, so we're going to go back into the article.
No.
We're going to go back into the archive.
Shite.
But look, you have nothing else to work with. Like, you write more articles, I'll do more questions on this week. We have to go back into the archives and go back to non-sports stories that you've released. See how well your memory is.
I can't complain.
See how well your memory is on stories you've released. But I have made them gettable because we're going back a few weeks. So, what product did you report on Aldi stocking in early January?
What product did I report on Aldi stocking?
Yeah. Aldi released a new product that they were stocking in January. You reported it. It was like the number one trending topic in the world for a day. Turn that phone around. What are you looking at?
No, I'm looking at the screen.
All right, fair enough.
Sorry, man. There you go.
All right, fair enough. I thought you'd get this straight away.
This is like...
Memory of a sieve.
It's obviously a novelty. I do the memory of a sieve. It's pork and custard is what it does to you. Can I have a hint? Is it not food related? I don't think it's food related.
You may not have a hint because you reported this story and I'm basically asking you, what did you report? That's your hint.
But I report a lot. I report a lot of stories, not this week, but I do report a lot of stories.
Yeah.
Aldi released a product. They release new products. Oh, fuck it.
It's the only products that you've reported on Aldi releasing recently. That's your hint. You reported one Aldi-related story.
I did, yeah. Oh, God.
We're going to have to push it. We have to end sometime.
Okay. A shiwi, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't even have a good guess.
Finally. Earlier in the month, you reported the date of apparently your favourite artist, Ariana Grande's new single release, 7 Rings. But what date did that get released on?
It was this week. As in, this previous 7 days. I'm going to go for the 23rd, but I think I'm wrong. That's a loss for me this week, I feel.
Question 1. The answers. The match where low blows went viral was indeed CM Punk against The Rock, and it took place at the Royal Rumble 2013. You got that right. Well done. I tried to throw you off.
Yeah, my logic there. I knew Cena won the Rumble in 2012, but I couldn't remember if Rock had the title then. I don't think he did. No, he didn't.
Now for the one you're going to kick yourself for. You definitely.
Put me out my misery.
Aldi released vegetarian white pudding earlier in the month. No, you're just I have zero recollection of that.
Do you know what? It was a press release, and it was a cut and paste job. No, I definitely. I did lots of research. I did lots of research on that. Wasn't a press.
He's a sports correspondent mainly.
I do love white pudding though.
Ariana Grande's new single release, 7 Rings, got released on January the 18th. It wasn't this weekend though,
no,
which means Rick wins. Just
to
like I'm
two
going to win
again.
my Super Bowls. 12-10. The 2-point lead. We're back. We're a bit of comfort now.
You're keeping me at arm's length. It's
we can sit back and rest on our defense, lads. It's all right. We've got the 2-goal lead back. David Kent, thank you very much for this week. Guys, enjoy this amazing sporting weekend. Just inhale it all. It's going to be fantastic. We'll be back next week breaking down the Super Bowl, breaking down the first weekend of Six Nations, and all that and more. But
the
until
next month is going to be class.
It's unreal. It's unreal. I cannot wait. I love this time of year. Anyway, we'll be here for you through it all, guys. So until then, for David Kent, for Rick Nash, this has been Paddy's New Yacht.